welcome to you all on behalf of CK Villa Hospitals, CMRI, once again to our yet another Facebook Live session. Well, I, Devaruti, extend my heartfelt thanks to you all for keeping your faith on us and trusting us as the one-stop solution for all your health issues. So now let me tell you all that it's a great honor, it's a great pleasure to have with me right now the man who doesn't need any introduction and who is famous not only from the eastern part of India but across the nation, I must say, none other than Dr. Rajadhar over here. So welcome
Thank you, Devaruti.
to
Thank you
this
very much.
session. It's a great opportunity to have you,
Thank you.
in our session, sir. So, sir is here today, and sir is going to give his expert advice on new normal way of life and the various new therapies in pulmonology. So, sir, without any more ado, I would say that now at this stage, we know COVID, we fought COVID, and slowly we are trying to overcome with it. But at the same time, we also know that it's going to be the part and parcel of our life too. So, by with take it forward, what should we do now to maintain our regular life, normal life? Uh,
So, Devaruti, I've just got vaccinated today. So
oh
I've just
wow!
got...
Congratulations to you, sir.
Thank you. I don't know about the congratulations. But I think if you asked me a year ago that we would see a day like this, I would probably never believe you. So I think back in March, the middle of March, when we had our first case of COVID in my former hospital, and we started the COVID unit, we thought that we were embarking on a journey which would probably last us no more than about 2 months at the most. Then we learned the new ways of life. We learned about the SMS. All of you know about SMS. So that's hand sanitization, that is about mask, and that is about social distancing.
Absolutely.
We went through the lockdown. We gradually opened up again. We had small spurts of cases on the way. And then multiple cases, multiple deaths later. Today, we seem to be seeing light at the end of the tunnel. We really liked the old normal. I'm sure you did too. And over a period of time, we have learned the new normal. And the new normal is not just about the SMS. It's also about lots of other things that we have learned on the way. Some of them are good, and some of them are going to last us for a very long time, even post-COVID.
True.
Some of them are like what we are doing today, right? Maybe not the Facebook Live, but doing virtual consultations. So there was a time, maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, when all my consultations used to be on a web-based platform. Now we are doing about 30% of our consultations on a web-based platform, and about 70% are physical consultations. Now that's got its advantages. You know, the way we have learned to do medicine from a distance, virtual medicine, online medicine. You cannot do that for everyone, but you can obviously do it for a certain section of people you know well, whom you're following up. And this helps people who are elderly, who are frail, who find it a challenge to come to hospitals, however hospitable these hospitals are, wait for long periods of time, get investigations done, and then see a doctor. So there are positives of the new normal also. Along with that, we have also seen a decrease in number of respiratory diseases. So for instance, the number of cases with TB, the number of cases with other respiratory viral illnesses, so non-COVID illnesses is what we are talking about, seems to have also come down over the last few days. And that's related to the mask that we wear, that's related to the hand sanitization. So, you know, this disease gets transmitted broadly in two ways. One is because you inhale the aerosol particles, the airborne particles, and hence the mask helps us to protect from the aerosol particles. The second is by preventing the transmission by fomites. So fomites are when you touch a surface. For instance, if I touch the table on which this laptop is, and someone else who had come and sat on this chair and touched the table had COVID, and then I put my fingers on my nose or my eyes or my mouth, I might inhale the particle. And one of the things which is special about the COVID virus is that it seems to stay on surfaces prolonged periods of time. And when I say prolonged periods of time, It can be any time between 9 hours to 36 hours, depending on the nature of the surface which you are touching.
Okay.
So this practice of hand sanitization, transmission of viruses, so is going to reduce significantly if we continue with the masking and the hand sanitization for the foreseeable future. When I'm speaking loudly with you, if I maintain a distance of 6 feet, then the chance of any respiratory viral infection getting transmitted to you is going to reduce dramatically.
Okay.
So I don't know about social distancing, but physical distancing, especially when you're speaking loudly, when you're coughing, when you're sneezing, does a world of good in reducing the incidence of viral infections and even bacterial infections like TB, right?
Okay.
So I think this distancing is going to stay, the hand sanitization is going to stay, should stay, the wearing of the mask should stay. And platforms like the one we are using today
Yeah.
are going to stay there for a very, very long time. And it's good points that we have learned out of the COVID-19 pandemic today. You know, in the OPD, while we don't manage all the time, the clinics, we try and maintain a distance between patients. Crowding is something we are trying to prevent. It's a challenge in a country of 138 million. However, it's something that we need to try in the long run if we are to try and reduce the various menaces of air pollution, transmitted infections, etc. going forward.
Okay, so a lot of information I'm gathering from you. I didn't know it before. But sir, I would also like to know, sir, I heard that antibody, after COVID, the antibody stays in human body up to 90 days.
So Debarati, I think there's a lot of dispute about this. So there's a lot of things that we need to understand. The first is, we have now known this disease in India for a period of about 10 or 11 months. So if you think
Yeah.
of mid-March, then
Actually.
probably mid-January is about 10 months.
Yeah, actually.
Right?
Yeah, actually so.
If you look across the world, the time frame is 12 months, right? So not a lot more. If you, all the evidence that we think about in COVID today is evidence extrapolated from other epidemics and pandemics. So we think about how long did the in the MERS epidemic, how long did the antibody last us? How long did it last us during the SARS epidemic? So that's the information that we are extrapolating. We know that the antibody stays in most cases for a period of about 3 to 4 months, and then the antibody titers start coming down.
Okay.
However, what we don't know is, does the antibody level coming down mean that you get no immunity against the virus? Because you know there are two different types
Yeah,
of
that
immunity.
is what I wanted to
Yeah.
know actually. Sir.
So there are two different types of antibodies, Debarati. One is what's called cell-mediated immunity, and the other is what is called the humoral immunity, which is the antibody-based immunity that we are talking about.
Okay.
So there is still another antibody, there's still another immune system that will protect us even when the antibody levels come down.
Okay.
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 However, you know, you've heard about these mutant strains.
Yes.
You've heard about the mutant strains coming from the UK. You've heard about the mutant strains from South Africa and so on. So we don't know whether these antibodies will protect us against the new mutant strains that we have.
Okay.
We know the vaccine seems to protect against the mutant strains, and that's why when we are vaccinating, like I said, I've got vaccinated today.
Yeah.
When we are vaccinating, we don't think about whether the person has had a prior COVID infection. Does the person have an antibody from before? Because you want to add to the bucket of immunity, you want to add to the bucket of immunoglobulins in your body to give you maximum protections against COVID, while the pandemic gradually moves forward and peters out over a period of time.
But sir, as you said, as you are talking about the vaccination, there are a lot of myths and pros and cons kind of a thing in people's mind. So if you kindly give
So
a
there
short
are-
brief on that, sir.
So there are no cons about immunization of any form. Immunization can only be good for you. It's preventive medicine, and even the most potent of vaccines would have a very small adverse effect. Unfortunately, the problem is that if you're vaccinating 1 million people, and if 40 people have an adverse effect from it, all the 40 get highlighted in the media or get spoken about in the press. So people feel, oh my God, there's 40 people. What we don't think is, suppose you go out on the road today and there is 1 million people who travel down the roads today. there'll be a number which would definitely have a road traffic accident,
Yeah, true.
right? So there is nothing which has zero adverse effect, zero side effects.
That's true.
Everything
That's
in the
true.
world will have a degree of side effect, and you try and balance the benefit that you get with the potential adverse effect. And in my book, any vaccine, including the COVID vaccine, including the Covishield, including the Covaxin, the chances of adverse effect are far lower as compared to the benefits that you garner from taking the vaccine. So you can see I'm alive and kicking. I've taken the vaccine about 15 minutes ago. Got a bit of a tingle in my arm. The nurse did a very good job injecting me, but still I've got a bit of a pain in the arm. But aside from that, I'm absolutely fine. And I never for a moment thought that anything would happen to me by taking the vaccine. So all of you guys there, please go and take the vaccine as soon as your turn comes, because that's one positive thing that you can do in life, start of 2021, which will protect you in the long term against this menace. And it's not just about COVID. For the right age group, for people who have comorbidities, from my perspective, from a chest physician's perspective, take the pneumonia vaccine, take the influenza vaccine. Vaccines are only good for you and need to be taken when your doctor advises you to do so.
So, as you all have heard that Dr. Raja Dhor himself is saying that there is nothing to be worried about vaccination. Just go ahead for it. So, sir, now during this pandemic, we all know that the intervention pulmonology has been stopped due to the risk of infection, and now I heard that it's restarting.
So we did not stop. So I think so. The problem, Debaruti, is that all interventions in the lung or in the breathing tubes
Yes.
result in the generation of small air droplets, water droplets.
Okay.
And the virus can piggyback on these water droplets and it can go into the breathing tube of the healthcare worker who is doing the procedure.
Okay.
So there was a lot of fear about doing aerosol generating processes, and our backbone for interventions is bronchoscopy. So there was a lot of inhibition about doing bronchoscopies in certain centers. We never stopped doing bronchoscopies. In fact, through the pandemic, over 9 to 10 months, we would probably have done about 300 procedures during that time,
Okay.
which is one of the largest in the country. And we did not stop any procedure at all.
Okay.
However, having said that, the health of the healthcare worker is also as important as any other layperson outside, and hence wearing the protective equipment, trying to make sure that you wear the right PPE, wear the goggles so that the eyes are protected, the face is protected, the hands are protected, is extremely important when you do these procedures. So we never stopped, so the question of restarting does not arise. However, the numbers are now gradually growing, and here at CMRI, we
Yes.
are in the process of building a state-of-the-art, the best, not just in Eastern India, not just best in the country, but we hope the best in Asia intervention will be built at CMRI here. So what is it that makes it state-of-the-art? What is it that makes it the best?
So we would like to know.
Sure. So the first thing about any department, any unit, a cutting edge unit, a unit which claims to be the best, I think, is made up of the health workers and their attitude towards the patients. So here at CMRI, we try and build an environment which is friendly for all of you, which is compassionate, where we hold your hand in completing the journey, be that as an outpatient or be that as an inpatient. So that's the first thing, and that's the commonality, that's the common thread that joins all of us, and hopefully we manage to deliver that. So that's one first bottom line. The second thing is building up of specialist clinics.
Okay.
So we are in the process of building up clinics in various subspecialties of respiratory medicine. So be that in the sphere of asthma, be that in the form of COPD, which is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, as all of you know, which is narrowing of the breathing tubes, which can be related to smoking, which can be related to air pollution, which can be related to inhaling smoke from chulhas, so biomass fuel exposure.
Okay.
So that's a specialist obstructive airways disease, asthma and COPD. We have a lung cancer clinic where we have people from various specialties chipping in. So you know the management of lung cancer, our responsibility in lung cancer is trying to diagnose the disease. However, we need the help of the radiologist, we need the help of the pathologist in doing this. We also need an oncologist thereafter to guide us in the treatment. Where we are fortunate enough to diagnose the cancer early, we would need a surgeon to do an operative measure which takes the cancer away. Right?
Okay.
So that's a multidisciplinary team approach, people working together, discussing cases together,
Absolutely.
and that's a specialist lung cancer clinic.
Okay.
Similarly, there are rare diseases, not rare in our environment because we are a tertiary care system, but rare in the way of how common asthma or COPD is. It's rarer than that, a disease process which is called ILD, interstitial lung disease, where again, a pulmonologist, a radiologist, a pathologist, sometimes even a surgeon join hands together in trying to deliver best care to all of you. There's the clinic that we do to look at sleep abnormality. So not just stopping breathing during sleep, which is called obstructive sleep apnea, but also things like insomnia, walking during the night, dropping off to sleep in the middle of a sentence, which is sometimes called narcolepsy. So all of these features are encompassed as a part of the sleep clinic. And we have ENT doctors, we have max fax surgeons, we have a psychiatrist, we have a specialist nurse, all bonding together in delivering care to you in the specialist clinics. I've spoken about some. There are other clinics which are worth mentioning. There's something novel. There's the flight assessment clinic.
Wow.
So, a lot of the audience have families which live overseas. And you elderly parents want to go and visit their children. A lot of these people have chronic respiratory disease. And when they go onto a flight at an altitude, even in a pressurized craft, their oxygen levels drop.
Yeah.
So along with the clinical acumen, our clinical acumen, we can also recreate the atmospheric pressure that is present within the flight and see how much the oxygen levels drop and the safety of you flying that distance to visit your beloved children. So that's something that we can do in the flight assessment clinic, for instance. The interventions that you spoke about, Debaruti. So the interventions are not just diagnostic bronchoscopy, that we do a lot of. We do more than 100 cases a month. But along with that, there's also things like debulking of tumors. So tumors in the breathing tube, benign or malignant, you can debulk them with hot and cold therapy. So we use things like cryotherapy. We use things like argon photocoagulation, which is the heat therapy, in taking tumor out and then placing a stent within the breathing tube to keep it open. You understand that if this is a benign tumor, then this can potentially be curative treatment. Malignant, it can help you to breathe. So there's lots of symptomatic benefit even in malignant patients by doing procedures like debulking of tumors and putting stents in. We can remove foreign bodies from tumors, for instance, from the breathing tubes, for instance, and there's multiple, long list of things that we have removed. We have removed coins, we have removed nuts, we have removed even small screws in across the board age groups. So from children to adults, we have done all that. And we've got a plethora of things with photographs of what we have removed over the years.
Okay.
Then there's things like endobronchial ultrasound, where outside the lung, if there's a tumor or a lump sitting there, there's an ultrasound probe which lies at the tip of the bronchoscope, and you get to put a needle into this tumor and take samples. It happens in very few centers across the city of Kolkata and few centers across the country. There's taking samples from around the chest wall in people who have fluid accumulation around the lungs, which is called thoracoscopy.
Yes.
So there's a multitude of things that we offer. It depends on what a patient deserves. I think the important thing here is to work up the patient properly and ensure that the right intervention is offered to the right patient. Because if we go over the top in interventions, you can cause harm rather than causing good. So that understanding, that balance needs to be maintained when you're doing interventions on people, cutting edge technology, which we use at CMRI today.
Oh, wow. What else? I don't know what to say. There are plenty of new technology, new things that under Dr. Rajadhar's supervision is going to happen in CMRI. So for now, I would like to say thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you, Debarati.
For such a lovely session you have gifted me today. And my heartfelt thanks to you for your valuable time. So for now, I have to say goodbye to you all. But for all your pulmonology related issues, you can always come to our hospital. You can always contact our pulmonology department. Dr. Dhar is here. Dr. Dhar's entire team is here to take care of your problems. So for now, I have to say goodbye. For any other information or any inquiry, you can always contact us on 033 4090 4090 on this number. Till then, stay well, be happy. Bye-bye.
And stay
Thank you.
safe, stay well. Thank you.